Well, Frank Frangie, another week of a Campus Corner. Let's talk about Florida State. They're number 4 in the rankings this week, knocking down 1 spot from last week. They are on the road at Clemson, noon kickoff. This is probably the biggest ACC matchup of the year.
No question about it. This is the game of the year until they play again in the conference championship game, perhaps. But this is the game for FSU to step forward. Everybody's talked about the Noles. Everybody said the Noles have arrived. They're a top 2 or 3 team now. But you got to beat the king. And the king of the ACC has been Clemson. Clemson's playing at home. Clemson's kind of ticked off because they lost that game to Duke earlier in the year. Clemson's trying to keep its footing. They're trying to say, wait a minute, not yet. We're not gone yet. FSU's saying we're about to take the throne. This is a huge game this week. I think FSU's going to win the game, but I don't think it's easy. I think Clemson's not going to give up that throne so easily. Best game of the weekend, best game of the year in the ACC starts at noon, and I can't wait.
And can you believe it? Last week when we were talking about Florida State, Boston College, we thought it was going to be a blowout, and then it was 31-29 the final score.
Yeah, I think the Noles were looking ahead a little bit. They know that Clemson game's around the corner. They know Boston College had not played very well. They were looking ahead. This is going to be a big one.
Let's talk about Florida. 25th ranked in the nation, finally breaking into the top 25. Good for the Gators. They are hosting Charlotte. Not really, of course, a matchup that we really care about that much, but still, I mean, it is an opponent.
They had the signature win last week, Alessandra. That's the win Billy Napier needed. People were doubting him. People weren't trusting him. They knew he could recruit. They knew he could run the program, be a CEO, but could he coach? He had them ready. They were well coached last week. They looked like they outcoached Tennessee. They were prepared. They never got to the line late. Great coaching job last year. Florida arrived last week. That was the win they needed. This week's game against Charlotte will be easy, but then there's the gauntlet of the SEC. You got to go to Kentucky the week later. I think one more warm-up week, but Florida has arrived by beating Tennessee last week. Everybody had sort of a sigh of relief. They just wanted to know, can we compete? Can we be this? Whew, well, now I think we can. Big win last week for the Gators.
And I got to ask you, with Tennessee, they were ranked 11th. Do you think that was a statement win for Billy Napier?
I think there's no question it was. It was the one he had to have. And for that reason, now Tennessee's pretty good. Tennessee gets spooked when they go to the Swamp. They haven't won there since '03. That place was loud. It was crazy. They lost their mind down there. But it was a great win for Florida.
And Georgia hosting UAB, another game that probably will go in Georgia's favor, of course, not as tough as the Bulldogs for UAB. What do you like about that matchup, though?
Georgia stumbled around a little bit against South Carolina. They needed that game. The first quarter and a half, it didn't look good. Georgia needed to go through a game where they didn't play very well. Carson Beck didn't play very well, and then they got it going. The UAB game is easy. They'll win that one easily. But it's the last step before they get into conference play, too. So both Florida and Georgia have one last non-conference game because then the gauntlet comes. And Georgia showed some scars here. They showed some areas of weakness here. So Georgia's got to play better. Both Florida and Georgia, one more non-conference game before it all gets serious.
And there's quite a few Jaguars who are from UAB and Georgia, so I wonder how that little rivalry in the locker room this week.
They'll all know each other. The fact is, when Southern teams play each other, they all tend to know each other, no question.
There you go. And that, Georgia hosting UAB, of course. Florida, like we said, hosting Charlotte. And Florida State on the road at Clemson. Frank, thank you so much. And that's your look at sports.